Welcome to Why So Technical, the only podcast using that we can't get our show started right at 8 o'clock. I am the Mud King. With us tonight is our co-host Bits Loading and Gatoon. Right now, if you're on Blab IM watching us, you're only seeing Gatoon. I'm just a graphic, and Bits Loading is on Skype with me. So we are both hidden, but Gatoon, you're here to lead the way in terms of video. How are you doing, Gatoon?
I'm doing just fine, Curtis. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's almost the holidays. I'm excited about that. How about you, Bits? How are you?
Doing well. Hopefully you guys are both doing well as well, and ready for Christmas.
Yes, I want to wish all of our audience happy whatever it is you celebrate. Even if you celebrate nothing, I hope you have a great Friday. What do you guys want to talk about tonight? What's up in the tech world or just general news? Any specific direction you want to take us?
Well, since we're so prepared, I have one item, and that was what I was wanting to talk about last week, but we got sidetracked. Well, not sidetracked. Everybody was busy. I guess we'll put it so. I have one item, which is the FFA or FAA and the drone registration rules.
Yes. When is the deadline for that you have to be registered, and give us some background?
I've got to pull it up here.
Okay. So. While you do that, let me give out information about how people can connect with us. Because again, we are so technical and there's so many ways to connect with us that I almost forgot to say that at the beginning. You could reach us at 317-708-4500. That's a landline number that you can call in and be a part of the show. You can also reach us on Skype by searching for live show, all one word, live show space 99. That'll get you into us on Skype also. And again, you won't have video if you call in like that, but you can definitely be part of the conversation. And the best way to reach us would be to go to blab.im and search for Why So Technical, and you'll be able to jump in and grab a seat. We'll have two open, and tell us what you're thinking. Take us any direction you want to. We're open to have calls on a wide range of topics. We'll even try to do tech support if we can. So looks like Trav Caustic says he's listening to technical death metal. We are just about, we're two notches above technical death metal, but Gatoon, you're a big fan of that, aren't you?
A little bit. I do dabble. I kind of listen to all types of music, so pretty much any music I'll listen to at least once.
Who's your favorite technical death metal band?
That's another thing. I don't like picking favorites of anything. I just kind of listen to whatever comes up.
Very diplomatic. Trav, what's your favorite technical death metal band? I didn't even know that was a genre. I like it. I'm going to tell people that's my favorite now. But, I mean, death metal I'm all for. But technical death metal sounds like something I would listen to. We need to get someone to record an intro for us using that genre. All right, Bits, you ready? You got the info?
I'm never ready, but I do have the info.
Well, that works.
You want to run right in? You want to jump right into this, or what do you want to do?
We can do whatever we want to. This is
put me on the spot. Well, you're the boss. You cut the paycheck.
Oh well, how come I never end up getting one of those paychecks with my name on it?
That's part of being the boss.
Nice. Okay. Well, again, anyone who wants to jump in, feel free to grab that seat. Let's go over some just tech news. And to do that, I'm going to go to the magical news.google.com, and I'm going to throw out articles that are listed there under the science and tech and technology, and you guys just respond to these, all right?
That sounds easy.
It better be. So YouTube lashes out on T-Mobile's throttling of video streams. YouTube is no fan of T-Mobile's new Binge On program, which promises free, lower quality video streams to subscribers. This is from USA Today. Have you guys heard about this?
I haven't.
You haven't?
I read a little bit about it today, and of course they're blaming the whole.
You're starting to sound really jumbled. Just so you know.
again.
Yes. I don't know if could it be a bandwidth issue on my side? I wouldn't think so, but maybe.
You know what? I'm gonna check a few things because it could be my bandwidth. It could be my bandwidth. So
Okay, because I noticed the last episode we did, the Blab recording sounded fine. Like it had no weirdness to it in terms of when I was hearing problems with your audio, or you were hearing problems with mine one time, but the recording was good. But like right now, live, it's kind of hard to interact because you went robotic.
interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's not good. But I guess it's fine for the recorded part of it. But yeah, it looks like we're having even people in the chat are seeing that there's problems with the audio.
I feel really good about myself.
You should.
Yeah, I'm actually having problems pulling up my router, which is...
You were being DDoSed right now, sir. Just thought you might want to know that. Good morning, you're being DDoSed.
Nobody cares about me.
Merry Festivus. It's a Festivus miracle that you are being DDoSed. And just for that, since Gottoon is not fully aware of the miracle which is Festivus, I'll play a clip for us and then we'll come back to this YouTube.
Many Christmases ago, I went to buy a doll for my son. I reached for the last one they had, but so did another man. As I rained blows upon him, I realized there had to be another way. What happened to the doll? It was destroyed. But out of that, a new holiday was born. A Festivus for the rest of us.
When George was growing
Jerry,
up,
no.
his father hated all the commercial and religious aspects of Christmas,
Yeah.
so he made up his own holiday.
Oh, and another piece of the puzzle falls into place.
There you go. That's from Seinfeld, the Festivus, which today is the day we would celebrate, and we would have the airing of grievances at the table, where I could tell everyone how you have failed me throughout the last year. But we might skip that part, and I'll let you guys tell me how I have
Well,
failed.
let's find out. Is it
Okay,
better
Gottoon,
now?
how are you? How's your audio now?
All right. Well,
So far, yes. And let's see, we've got right on cue from that. I'm going to see if we. Oh, hey, there we go. Okay, I won't play that anymore. I probably
No.
probably just
actually,
made you
that
deaf
wasn't
there,
too
didn't
terrible.
I? Both of you. Okay.
It was pretty loud on my end. My headphones blew off my head.
Well, you're welcome. Trav Caustic says in the chat room for that. That was a link he sent us of some technical death metal. I'll go back and listen to that later. And Robin, you are correct. We will also have our feats of strength. I'll see if anyone can wrestle me to defeat before this episode is over. So going back to our YouTube / T-Mobile issues, it looks like YouTube isn't on this new binge on. I put binge on in quotes program. So subscribers who watch YouTube have found that their video streams are lowered to 480p resolution and service slowed down if you have heavy viewing of it. This is basically like a net neutrality almost type thing, but not in terms of overall regulation from the government. This is a carrier doing net neutrality to the different services that are connected on it. What do you guys think of that in general as a way for a carrier to control their network? And then any other comments?
I disagree with their tactics because
Go ahead.
to be honest with you, I mean the idea is that everybody should have fairness. Now, if they're slowing down everyone to that same speed, that would be a completely different story. But they're not. They're selectively choosing what content someone can watch at a higher speed. So they're not necessarily providing a better service for their customers. They're actually reducing the service for specific hosts. So now they're actually being censors. They're actually censoring their internet services. So yeah, I think that's probably a bad thing.
What do you think, Bits?
Oh, I agree. I mean, if you're paying for basically a subscriber to a network is paying for a pipe, no matter whether it's cellular, whether it's, home internet, whatever the case may be, you're paying X amount a month for a pipe. While I understand, traffic management and network management and that kind of thing, my personal opinion of it is, if I'm paying for an internet service, I should be able to do what I want within the limits of the contractual agreement. And if there's an issue with bandwidth limitations or network congestion on the carrier's end, then it's their responsibility to upgrade or to correct that problem. Don't put it on the customer or throttle the customer because of it. Because again, if you're paying for a pipe, you're paying for a pipe. It's not any of their business what you're doing whatsoever, as long as it's within the confines of the law.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it should be how many bits shoot through this pipe, and have you gone over your allocated amount of them or not? And it's that cut or dry to me too. I fully agree. Hey, Brig, I see you in the chat room there. That's awesome. If this is the episode you want to jump on and grab a seat or give us a call, feel free to. It'd be nice to hear from you. So,
what chat room are you in?
This is the Blab. That's why you're in our regular chat room monitoring it, which I'm guessing you're probably right now the only one since it's an off time.
I'm in
the Deep Talk.
I'm in Deep Talk. I'm in Deep Talk General, or I'm in ampersand General. I'm in ampersand Technical, and I am also. Oh, I don't know. See Brig, but I've got Blab up here too.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I'm just curious. I've got Blab up. I'm running off my hotspot on another PC running Blab. So.
Okay. Cool. Another article here. Let's look and see. What do you guys think of using non-standard controllers on con? Are either you two console player gamers? And
not really.
Okay, because I was just looking at Xbox.
What do you mean? You're talking about like non-OEM aftermarket controllers.
That Wildcat controller is actually pretty cool. I mean, if you are looking for one, it is a pretty cool controller. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, let's talk about that then, since you said that. So this is the Razer Wildcat. This is from VentureBeat. The article says Razer Wildcat is a good alternative to the Xbox One Elite controller, and I like Razer. My keyboard I'm using right now, it's a mechanical keyboard that is from, I believe, their Chroma line, and it's great. I mean, I like it. So I wonder. I don't have an Xbox One right now, but I'm seriously considering getting it. It says it has the fastest, quickest face buttons in the West, is what they're saying. So that's interesting that this, of course, that's a very important part of any kind of gaming, is how quickly and how responsive is your controls. So, okay. Exciting article with a dead end there. Wasn't that fun? Okay, so Motorola Moto 360 Sport. Have you looked at this cartoon?
But I have looked into the Motorola 360 and not the Sport Edition. I am.
Are you there still? Okay. Yeah, it was weird. I lost your audio, I thought, for a moment. Yeah, this is from PCMag.com. It says the pros are it's an attractive, sporty design, and it's a wearable for anyone who's not aware. It says it has a built-in GPS, heart rate sensor, and it's a comfortable wristband. Cons is it only tracks running. The heart rate sensor is sometimes inaccurate, poor battery life, and Android Wear still needs work, and that's more of a general complaint for the Android Wear. And let's see. How about let's see, LG copies Microsoft's classic Surface ad to tease new fridges and TVs. That's not all that exciting or technical. Google.
The Moto 360 Sport's pretty sharp looking though for a watch. I mean, not something I'm into, but it looks sharp.
Yeah, I really like one thing that Motorola has done better. I've owned a Samsung Gear Neo, and I really liked it. And I've also owned, or my wife owns an Apple Watch, and both of them are cool. They did what they needed to just fine, but I really like the rounded face of the Motorola 360s. Those just look better as watches. I just wish that they were more compatible on the iOS side. You can make one work with iOS, but you lose a lot of the cool Google Google woo woo. There you go. That goo goo gaga that you get from it. But it's a if I had all that, like if it integrate with Goo Goo Now on my phone, then I'd be fine. But
I'm not allowed to type those keywords in at work.
Goo Goo, yeah, I probably want to be careful with that. But yeah, so I like the design well enough. But
yeah, it looks like a watch. I
Exactly.
mean, that's what's cool about it. And I'm a big fan of. I mean, I don't know if that's what I'm looking at. The wristband's orange. I don't know if that's the only. Surely that's not the only color you can get. But I like the color orange anyway. So I mean that maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but I like it. It looks good.
You are not a
I'm
redhead.
not a watch person. What's that?
So you are not a redhead like me. Redheads do not like orange.
So,
Well, I get it.
Add to
That
your
makes sense.
comment there, Bits. Most of this stuff is going to be part of their Moto Maker setup. So on their website, you can pretty much customize every aspect of that watch. So,
As far as are you talking about physically,
colors,
hardware wise, or what do you
you
mean?
You can have different watch face design. Excuse me. Different bits and pieces of the all the different color schemes and different bands and all that kind of stuff. They use their Moto Maker software website design,
okay.
and you can actually kind of customize out exactly what you want in your watch. So they do that for their Motorola, their Moto 360 that they have now, and also their phones and everything too. So it's pretty fantastic for people who want to have kind of get their look for their devices. That's a really good option.
That's cool.
It's a neat accessory. I mean it's just not me, but a lot of people wouldn't spend $400 on a walkie-talkie ham radio either. So to each his own.
I don't know. I would like to spend as much money as I could on one. That'd be great. Anyone who wants to join in, again, there's several different ways you can connect with us. We have open seats on Blab IM. You can join us there, or you can call us at 317-708-4500, or on Skype, you can reach us at live show, all one word, space 99. We welcome anything and everything. We are a tech show, but we jump all kinds of directions within that. So feel free to jump in, tell us what you're most excited to get technology-wise for Christmas or Festivus or any other holiday that you might
let's talk about the biggest geek
celebrate.
news of the week. No.
Oh, is that the Star
Wars
Trek Beyond trailer?
last week, and that's one of the reasons why I was not there watching.
Well, hold on.
Come on, Curtis.
Able to do a show last week, so I actually have watched it twice. So
Let's give us. That's pretty cool. I'm going to be doing my second showing maybe this weekend. We'll see how it goes. And let's warn everybody with well, actually, here, I guess, since we didn't talk about this ahead of time, are we going to be spoiler free?
I'd like to be spoiler free.
Or are we going to
I
share
don't want to be the
spoilers?
reason why somebody gets upset and doesn't want to go watch this film.
I support that. So then, being spoiler free, what did you think of it?
I think it is, first of all, it is better than 1, 2, 3 because it feels like a regular Star Wars movie, like from 1977's. And it had a feel of A New Hope. It had that same feel, but it also had some Return of the Jedi feelings in there. And I like both of those movies very much so. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic. So I liked both showings. I watched it the second time in IMAX, and I actually caught a few things that I missed the first time around. Mainly because now I knew the future of the movie, so I saw some of the foreshadowing events during the movie, and some of the comments and stuff that were made that kind of tell you what's going to happen later. So I think that was pretty cool to catch those the second time around. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested to see on the second showing is, do I pick up things that I didn't the first time? Base Chica said, if they're a diehard fan, shouldn't they have already seen it within a week? And I totally think there's logic in that point of view. I'm sure that most people who care about spoilers have already seen it, but just in case.
I have to look at yesterday. I went to the IMAX showing, and I was there an hour and a half early, and I was the 20th person still in line waiting to get in. So I was there an hour and a half early before the show. So I'm saying at this point, I think there's still some diehard fans that just couldn't go prior to now. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see which document you guys are talking about now. Okay. Yeah, I totally can understand the idea of not being able to see it on the opening, because I would try to go see it, and or I would normally go see any of this stuff. How do I turn off sounds for Google? That's frustrating. Play an audio notification when new chat message arrives. No sound for me. Sorry about that. On Google Drive, I was getting alert notifications, but anyway, I couldn't go see it on the opening night, while like I normally would every other Star Wars that I could go to the theater to see. I've gone opening night, but this one I wanted to take my family and also hopefully avoid some of the crowd. So we went Saturday after, or the Saturday after the opening, and it was still packed. I mean, like we went to go see it in IMAX 3D, and we got there a half hour early, which I thought was going to be plenty of time. No, wait, 45 minutes early, and it was packed already. We were lucky to get seats in the area I wanted to, with enough to fit all of us, because I thought we were going to split up, which would have been frustrating. But to be honest, the only critique specific critique is I won't go see my first showing of episode 8. I won't go see an IMAX 3D. It was really cool, but it didn't add enough to the show to make it like my opening night needing to see it. Like, it wasn't that great, because they didn't film the movie with IMAX cameras like you normally would if you were going to be showing this in IMAX 3D. So that was obvious. Like, the scenes that were clearly designed to work in IMAX were awesome. The scenes that weren't, it just wasn't that. It was really good still. It was awesome to see on the big screen, but it wasn't optimized for the experience. And so that was kind of blah, I guess.
I tend to.
That's how I would say it.
You would have thought that they would have filmed that whole thing in IMAX.
J.J. Abrams was adamant that he wanted to film it he wanted to use film like the original trilogy was filmed, which George Lucas had made the decision during episode 1 that he was going to go all digital for everything, using Dolby Digital, I believe. Or not Dolby Digital, that's the audio spec, but using digital cameras for everything. Yeah, and I just didn't. I don't know. I think that it was really cool using the old style camera, whatever it is, whatever millimeter film they use. But at the same time, it was frustrating because it wasn't. It didn't have that crispness on an IMAX screen that it could have. Like if you
spoiled.
Yeah, no. If you see Prometheus in IMAX 3D, that looked amazing, because it was designed to work with that, where this one wasn't. It was still good. Like the movie, like if I were to give my review of the movie itself, it was a good action movie, action sci-fi. I enjoyed that. I was going to say really quick, Gatun, could you change the topic for us? Keep it, the Why So Technical podcast, episode 8, but say Star Wars and Tech Talk for now. We probably should keep up with when we make a change like that. The Festivus part really doesn't need to be up there anymore. And I agree with the JJ lens flare. I went into this being in the chat. Trev Caustic mentioned that I went into it really nervous, because JJ is really bad at using lens flares, and they definitely showed up in this movie. He has an addiction to them, so it is what it is. You're going to get that when you see him producing or directing a movie.
I want to throw up I was reading some other reviews and some people who said the worst things about this movie. And actually out on Forbes, they have an article, and if you don't want to read spoilers, don't read it, but I'm not going to share that part of it. And one of their things was, why isn't every scene CGI? And they said puppets are so 1977. And I think that's, I think that's good and bad, because we all know the people that have watched the original, like 4, 5, and 6, the original 3 that we remember. We go back and we look at 1, 2, and 3, what came of 1, 2, and 3, and they're completely CGI, and they're kind of terrible because of that. That introduced when they're completely CGI. I think a good mix between the two is kind of where you need to be to make a great film that looks realistic and also awesome at the same time. And I don't agree with the Forbes thing saying that why every scene should have been CGI. So.
Yeah, I think that I like a good mix of the two. One thing J.J. Abrams did right in this movie, we were just talking about the analog, or not analog, but the not using digital cameras, but he also went away from that CGI to have real sets to create a real world. Like, I knew we were going to be okay with this movie when during some of the opening scenes, it was back to that original trilogy lived in environment with scratches and dirt and dents and all of the equipment around. So it was lived in, and CGI just does not do that as well. It doesn't give you that same lived in feel. And for the prequels, I mean, that kind of worked because they're at the pinnacle and on their way down of a society that had lasted for thousands of years with everything going well for them, and now all of a sudden it's not it's on its downfall, where in the original trilogy you're seeing it after it's trying to recover from all the events that played out. And so it was nice that this world was still like that, or at least the part that you're seeing in this movie. And anyone who wants to jump in with a seat, Loki XP, if you want to come in and share your complaints, feel free to. And we'd be completely fine to talk about any other good sci-fi movies that are out there, because I agree there's a bunch of good ones that get missed in these conversations, either because they didn't have blockbuster openings, or all the different things that we do, or that we expect and see from a movie.
So,
what do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that this movie has broken like every record that it can?
That's surprising, because I mean, if you look back, I mean, Star Wars is one of the best selling series of all time. So it's just it's right for it to break every record on its last thing coming out. I mean, you're talking about a completely new generation taking over Star Wars and writing it and everything, because George Lucas isn't around anymore. Just to give one last piece of credibility to the Forbes post, they actually said one of the problems is that Jar Jar Binks wasn't in it. So, and that is
wow.
That immediately invalidates their whole article. So,
unless somehow he's the bad guy and we just haven't seen that yet.
Pretty good. How about you guys?
Loki, how are you?
Awesome.
Doing well. Let's say we've got someone else trying to join in here. Let's see, Sammy. And then Loki, go ahead and tell us what you thought of the movie. And we're trying to be as spoiler-free as we can still, even though it's been a week since it's been out.
How can we talk about our complaints if we're spoiler-free? Oh,
we're doing our best to stay spoiler-free.
I haven't seen it yet.
So here's the thing. I haven't seen it, Sammy? Okay. Yeah, that's the thing, is that I'm totally ready to go there, but at the same time, I'm worried that there are some people who haven't seen it that want
internet's
to still preserve that experience.
not staying off the internet's ruined it. So,
But
I already spoiled it on accident too many times. So,
oh yeah. Well, Loki, what do you think? Tell us what you can, and if you spoil it, what can we do?
Well, I can tell you this: I had the
you do.
same feeling watching The Force Awakens as I did with the original 3. It's that it kept my attention. It had, I don't know, it brought me back to that nostalgic feeling of the originals. I mean, let's face it, 1, 2, and 3, like you guys were mentioning, the overuse of CGI, the unlikable Jar Jar Binks. I mean, come on. Yeah. But
right. At least the worst character that seemed to be introduced was nowhere near as bad as what Jar Jar was.
No, there was no
trilogy.
like major things when you were watching The Force Awakens that you were just completely pissed off about, you know?
Right. And you know that, like, to me, that was a win. That was
Right.
the best win of the whole thing, was that there wasn't this moment where you're like, oh gosh, this thing just jumped the shark totally, which was pretty much from the opening scenes of the first prequel to the last scene of it.
I was hoping if Jar Jar was in it, they would kill him.
Sammy, what?
They'd kill him off, give him a gruesome death. That make up for Jar Jar.
Well, I'm hoping that in the last one, I want that to be the last scene of the last of this trilogy, is there's this moment where everything seems to be done, but then out of the shadows walks out Jar Jar, and whoever our main Jedi is at that point just cuts his head off and then fade to black.
I would forgive him.
Yeah. I was reading an article, I can't remember where it was, maybe Entertainment Weekly, that with the prequels, George Lucas had asked so many big name directors to take over those movies for him that he didn't want to be the director for it. Because I think he knew he was going to fail, and no one wanted to pick up the mantle for him because they didn't want to fail either. And so the prequels almost become part of his own success is what took him down.
I can definitely understand that.
Because what do you guys think of, like, what if, like, Steven Spielberg? I guess actually any of those guys would have messed it up. JJ did enough because he was a fan of it too, but at the same time, I would rather see a director come in who's done something totally different and apply a cool directing style to these movies. Because that's why The Empire Strikes Back was so good. Do you guys all agree Empire is the best?
Yeah, I like the first one the best.
I'm a New Hope fan.
The 4.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I'm a Return of the Jedi fan. I'm sorry, I just
How about you, Cartoon and Bits?
you can't get around it.
Okay, you're off this. You're done. We're muting you and moving on. Bits, what do you think? What's your favorite Star Wars?
No, I don't have any idea.
Okay, you're gone too. This whole podcast is starting over.
See ya.
The Empire Strikes Back was my favorite because as a kid, when you were first watching that, at least for me, that's the first movie I had seen where it didn't have a happy ending. Like, it was the closest thing to the real world you could find, where it leaves on such a down note, and I'm trying to figure out as a little kid, I'm trying to reconcile that. Like, you know,
it's so negative.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining.
I can see his ride.
That's the power of Blab right there. We went along with him.
We know he wasn't lying.
Exactly.
I feel like the main villain, and I'll try to be as spoiler free as I possibly can here, though. As far as like unmasking him so early on, I think was a bad move. I don't know. I didn't think he was badass enough, and maybe that's just me. He looked up to, who came before. If people have seen the trailers, he looked up to Vader, and I don't think he lived up to that expectation. But this is the first one of the new, so we will see it progress. But I do like how the Empire was more badass. I mean, it had like a Hitler-esque feeling to the whole institution. It was very nice. I really liked that.
Yeah, they did go all out for that part of it. That was like the Empire was kind of a behind the scenes thing in the other movies, basically just a prop to put Darth Vader out there as this bad dude, where these movies focused more on what the Empire should have been and kind of what it was, the infrastructure behind why this group would go out and do what it did. But the thing that I'm thinking is in A New Hope, Luke was kind of whiny. I mean, he was growing up and finding out that there's this wider world out there. But throughout that, he's kind of he's a teenager basically throughout it. So he's learning to figure out how to deal with the emotions of all these heavy things that are happening to him, and it kind of gets flipped in this movie. And I think it adds to your frustration about the main bad guy in it. He's kind of the same thing. He's the mirror image, but the bad side of a guy growing into what it is to become a member of the Sith, which he's not Sith specifically. He's Kylo Ren, but a member of the Knights of Ren. But you have to assume that based on what happens throughout this movie, it's leading towards something that will hopefully be just as badass as when Darth Maul was first shown. Because like with him in the prequels, he looked the part of everything evil you wanted a Sith Lord to look like, and then it doesn't go anywhere. It falls flat. At least in this one, we're watching somebody who's flawed. Maybe, I guess the hope is that he turns out to be just as bad or the equal to Darth Vader, who he looks up to. We'll see. It's a pretty heavy thing to have to live up to, I think.
Try to avoid spoilers, but also their choice of the person acting that particular person, considering who he is and who his parents are, was wrong. It was the wrong. You don't even get any type of relational feel there at all. You don't. Yeah, you don't get it.
Man, this is a galaxy far, far away, so you have no idea what can happen there to make things work out the way they do.
I do understand that there aren't any true humans in Star Wars, but there aren't any humans from Earth because Earth didn't exist at the time of Star Wars, and it's some far, far away place.
Yeah. What are you talking about? E.T. E.T. is a member of the Galactic Senate, and he came to Earth, so I think anything is possible.
But the whole idea is that it's just, come on. It could have been that little bit better, and it would have been more believable and been more awesome, I think.
The only other complaint I had, but I think will be completely explained, in the next couple. Well, let's think about the title, right? It's the Awakening, right? It's referred to as the Awakening a couple times.
Right.
But I think the abilities of that character with the Awakening, it was insane to see somebody without formal training perform tasks that they shouldn't have been able to. And I think that will be explained later, so I'm not that worried about it. But I was a little worried about it,
Yeah. No, I think that's a completely valid complaint because everything we have the cinematic universe to look at to tell us how to expect certain things to progress, and that part of it did not progress realistically with what we've learned up to that point.
But it can be explained. It can be explained, though. It can be fixed. It doesn't have to be a problem. So,
right? No, I agree. But it was something that you couldn't help but notice in the first one. So I mean, hopefully we do get that.
I don't know about you guys, but the biggest moments in the movie were all the callbacks. That's when everybody in the audience laughed and clapped and had that nostalgic feeling, bringing them back to the original three.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, same thing in the theater I was in, and like the way for me, anytime there was that moment, the rest of it was a good movie. But what really tied it together for me were those callbacks to the old shows, and it was really weird, though, because it really was almost paint by numbers of the old trilogy, like putting it back on the screen and making certain situations happen. And that's the part I loved the most. But if I were to critique it as a movie, it didn't stretch any for it. But it reset the prequels for me to remind me that this isn't the prequels. This is something different and it can be better. And those callbacks ended up being good because of that.
A lot of your hardcore geeks complain that all the major plots in the movie could be recalled back to the originals. There are similarities in lots of pieces, but we had a whole bunch of twists in plot. We had a whole bunch of new things that have never happened before. You had somebody that defected. You have all this stuff that has never been done before. So.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that it was following the same playbook that the old ones did, but it added something, little pieces to it that can grow to where the next set of movies are not going to be, I don't think, they're not going to be playbacks of what we've seen before. Like they crunched all of the original trilogy into this movie, and so the next movies now can go whatever direction they're going to, which the director, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but the director for episode 8, I'm excited to see what he does, because he does not make the type of movies that you're used to seeing in Star Wars, and I think that's a good thing. Like, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but I did like the movies when they changed directors to a more dark direction in it. Like, of all the Harry Potter movies, like, I was indifferent to the first part of it, and then there's this moment, and I think maybe the fourth movie, when it takes a darker tone, and I'm like, okay, well, that was actually an okay movie because a new director took it over and went down another road, and I'm hoping that happens with the next episode of Star Wars, where this next chapter is going to be dark, I'm assuming, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be something different.
And I think you're right. You're on the right track there. I mean, this was the cusp. This is the one that they had to get good enough to bring in, the people who liked the prequels, the people who liked the original, and introduce all the new characters and tie them back to the old characters. And now the next one, you don't really need to worry about the old characters anymore. You can actually kind of move past them a little bit and write a story that is literally different than the first, than classic trilogy.
Right.
So,
yeah, you're breaking up a little bit again.
Again.
Your audio. Again, yeah. I don't. The force is not strong with your audio tonight.
Strong with me tonight. No.
I'll tell you what, it's renewed my interest, definitely. I went back and now I'm actually watching the Clone Wars animated series, which I probably never would have watched before. I'm not a diehard Star Wars geek, but I like Star Wars, right? But I went back and started watching that, and I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. Something I should have watched.
That's cool.
Before.
Yes. Yeah, see, I'm a diehard geek with it. I totally admit it. And I'm so bad that, like, I've read most of the expanded universe, and I got to the point, I think I've said this before in other shows in the past, but like, I realized at one point there was a book called The Millennium Falcon, and it was the story of Han and Leia many years into the future when they go back and find the Millennium Falcon after it was gone for a little while out of their possession. And they're older. They're probably about the same age range as they are in this movie. But as I'm reading it, I realize this is a soap opera. Like, this book I'm reading is no different than any soap opera that is on TV during daytime. Like, all these characters come back from the dead regularly. The same stories and love stories and interests keep popping up. And so I stopped paying attention to the expanded universe after that. But I've got all this back history that I know. Like, I know what happened right after Return of the Jedi. I know the Thrawn trilogy, backwards and forward, and all this different stuff. And then, like, I couldn't help but think, as the first couple scenes start with The Force Awakens, that all of that's gone. None of it matters anymore. So I invested all these years into these backstories, and they're gone. That's a little frustrating, but the movie was good enough to make me let it go and enjoy this new world.
Mm-hmm.
J.J. Abrams did the same thing to Star Trek too. Like, his first Star Trek movie. Have you seen that?
I have. I never was a Trekkie. Never was a fan growing up. I don't know why. I just never was. I never got into it. But the newer movies, for some reason, I like them. And I know most Trek fans are like, ah!
Yeah, I like them. But like a regular plot device in Star Trek movies is time travel and changing something. But usually at the end of the episode or at the arc of the story, they'll fix whatever it was that got broken in the timeline, and everything goes back to normal. But some great classic episodes of Star Trek take place in this changing the timeline kind of scenario. And that's what J.J. Abrams did in that world. But he didn't go back and fix it. It was the first movie, at least so far, that he hasn't fixed the timeline. So it's weird and different, but I actually do like it. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I don't see how they're going to use this world to make TV shows and stuff. It's like they're going to have to fix it for to do TV shows again, and then have the movie universe be a little bit different. But what he did isn't bad. I like it. But with you end up with that same feeling though. All these years of watching shows and this new world that you're watching of Star Trek, doesn't take place. None of that stuff exists inside it because this is different. And that's how Star Trek is, or Star Wars is for me now, because I know where Luke should be right now, and who's who, and who's the Dark Jedi, and what's the path the galaxy has gone down. Well, all that's been played out in the expanded universe, but it's gone now. But it's okay because there's too much stuff that happened to fit it into a movie. So, and it was weird. Like, they did mess up. The expanded universe has a point in it where they just royally screwed the pooch on it because it's so dumb. And so that part I'm glad is gone, but I liked all the other stuff.
I like the fact that they actually showed the premonitions too. We wouldn't have gotten that in the past. And the other thing I really enjoyed was the saber battles didn't seem like 1, 2, and 3 was all choreography. It was almost like dancing with lightsabers. And this brought it back to, in the heat of battle, how it would probably more feel like, and I really liked that. So.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. That part was good because it was raw. Yeah. It was like you should expect it. It was like the lightsaber that Kylo Ren has that a lot of people, including myself, were like, that thing looks dumb, and what's the point of the cross guards? Well, once the movie started and you saw the way everything was playing out, it wasn't a problem. It actually was. It was totally cool and fine. Like, you totally let that go because the story was good enough. Hey, Gatun, we've got you back, it looks like.
Oh, he can't hear you now.
But we don't have audio.
Oh, it'd help if I turned my audio back on.
Well, it doesn't sound choppy anymore. Well, it was less choppy before. Now it's Bits. We've got Loki on Skype. We've got someone else here with us. Our other co-host goes by Bits Loading. Are you there still, or we completely bored you with this Star Wars talk?
Oh, I was asleep. I'm here. No, I just don't have anything to add. I like Star Wars as well. It's just I'm just not as into it as you guys. I appreciate what you're saying though.
Okay, cool. I realized that you've been quiet.
Don't have any. I just can't add anything. You guys are, you're pretty much discussing it all, so there's not much I can add to it.
Well, okay, so you haven't seen it yet, right, Bits?
No, I'm using this as a learning experience.
Okay, good. So we haven't said anything that would make you not want to see the movie?
Oh, no. Okay. I'll see it. I'll see it even if you tell me not to. I'll see it just because you tell me not to.
Don't go see this movie. If there's one movie this year...
I'm going to see it tonight.
If there's one movie you skip this year, it should be that one because they've already made enough money. But if you don't go see it, Mickey Mouse will show up at your bed.
That's creepy. I better go see it.
I went into this. Sorry. I went into it only watching like the first 2 early trailers too, so I didn't do a lot of speculation. So I didn't have like a lot of insight going into a lot of it at all. And I was glad that I did it that way. I was very surprised with all the plot twists and how the original characters were played out. So
yeah, all I knew about it was from the trailers, and I tried to not, like, typically I would go learn everything I could about a movie before going to see it, and this one I avoided the internet in terms of research for it, and then with social media I went black on it all. No Facebook, no Twitter, and no Blab for several days after it was released because I didn't want to find out anything on accident. But I did consistently go around with the joke of Jar Jar is the bad guy in it leading up to it. I was kind of hoping, like, I think you had said that too, hoping he would be the bad guy just because, but I kept telling people that just to be
I've heard all the conspiracies about Jar Jar, and if you go back and look at the Clone Wars animated series and then the first 3 movies, it's crazy some of the things that he does and gets away with that sparks off these conspiracies that he's actually a Force user, unwilling or not. It's crazy, the whole conspiracies behind the Jar Jar.
Yeah. Well, do you ever watch Robot Chicken?
I have. Mm-hmm.
I love with that the way they play out with the Emperor and Jar Jar. There's a point when the Emperor is falling down from being thrown down the shaft, and he decides to change his ways. And one of the things he does is calls Jar Jar and apologizes for manipulating him. And Jar Jar starts laughing. That's just a great moment. I recommend for anyone to go to YouTube and search Robot Chicken, Robot Chicken Wars, right? And then look for the Emperor's highlights, and it's the last clip on it. I love that. I just watched that today, actually. So, what do you guys think of the spin-off ideas that they have? Like, there's Rogue One, I think, is the spin-off movie they're getting ready to make, which takes place in the time between the prequels and the original trilogy. Are you guys excited for those kind of stories to be told?
I'm always up for another spin-off story of some type because I'm an avid book reader or listener or audiobook reader, listener. I guess you would call my whatever I am. And
you consume
I
books
consume
in
books
some
in
form.
some form, and I love the stories that fill in the gaps between books, or things that take and follow some off character that you don't even know. You don't even think about ever being a main character of the book and being able to follow it. And movies can do that too, and usually they're not as fun to watch as the main line, but it does kind of. I like continuing stories, and I like how they would try to do that. Yeah.
I just hope when they do that, they don't stretch too thin and they don't seem too overly cheesy or not as, like you said, they're not as fun to watch. And if you do it too much, I think you expand the universe almost too much and you take away from that magical feeling of the next movie. I don't know, just me.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned earlier with the expanded universe, that's how I got with it. Like when I realized that I know too much and it felt like a soap opera at that point, I didn't read another expanded universe thing after that. What do you think, Bits?
I think you fell asleep.
Oh, sorry. No, I had to hit my unmute button.
Do you want there to be more movies besides the trilogy?
I say any Star Wars movie is going to be great. It's Star Wars.
Yeah. They make money too, don't they? That's the key. Think how much money this movie made, and then the merchandise. Like I was walking through a store, I think it was Target, several days ago, and on an aisle, I literally could buy anything I could ever want with Star Wars labels on it or character-driven something, tissues. You name it. There's everything down this aisle. And that I thought was a little bit much, that maybe it was time to move on from over merchandising.
Well, let me rephrase that. Any Star Wars movie has the potential of being great. How's that?
That works. That allows the prequels to exist in that world.
Right.
I wouldn't mind a TV series if it was done well. I think that could be very successful, but it would have to be done well.
Yeah, I look at like the Battlestar Galactica remake. If they could do like that in the Star Wars universe, I would love that.
That would be good. That would be good.
If you could get like HBO quality, like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, and push out episodes, the fans would eat it up.
Oh, that actually would be awesome. Like to look at the pirate and smuggling world inside the universe of Star Wars, and make it like Game of Thrones, to where nothing is off limits in the storyline. That would be awesome. Or if Darth Vader, this won't happen because he's such a iconic character for the franchise, but Darth Vader being like, any of you that are Game of Thrones fans, if he was like the Jaime Lannister of Game of Thrones, if Darth Vader could be that in the beginning, to where he's just going and kind of conquering everything, that would have been really cool to watch. But they wouldn't do that with Darth Vader now. He's too important to them.
Well, and I think we're gonna. I hope we see more from Vader in the next movie or the movie after.
Yeah,
because we all know
there are rumors out there.
We all know it's possible because at the end of the original 3, we know that he's actually he's still around. He's in phantasmal form, but he's still kicking it.
Yeah. That reminds me, there weren't. Well, never mind. I guess that's a spoiler.
Yeah, you almost went there because I almost went there too.
There weren't any what?
Yeah, I said there weren't any Smurfs in this one, but
But you know, it's a possibility.
I
And
almost
I
went down a
think they could do a good tie-in with it too. But Vader
Yeah.
at the end was vindicated, right? He basically came back to see his son, and at that point, we considered him to be a good character, right? So I don't know.
Right. Well, I've always wanted to see kind of the thread that they started within the prequels, that Anakin was so manipulated that when Darth Sidious, Palpatine, whatever you want to call him, when he realized how much like clay in his hand Anakin was, he started setting up these negative things for him, and then it was all perpetrated on a lie and a dream of his wife dying in childbirth that was planted by Sidious. At least they implied that, to where it made him innocent the whole time. He was the victim of being, I guess I don't know what the right word for it is, not catfished, but he was tricked into everything he did. So he never really was a bad guy.
Well, Anakin always had problems, though. I keep going back to Clone Wars because I'm watching that right now. But there are lots of things you learn about Anakin during the Clone Wars when he became a general in the army and all that. You see bits and pieces where he's actually doing things that a Jedi shouldn't do. And you catch a couple things, right, especially with his anger. He had issues. I mean, yeah, he was manipulated, but at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what he saw in him, was that here's somebody who is hanging on the edge anyway, and I'm going to, while you've got this whole Jedi group trying to, and he's already kind of uncomfortable with them anyway because of different things that played out to where he thinks they're holding him back, and then you have Palpatine sitting here doing things to egg that on, and Anakin's not smart enough to realize that it's happening to him, that he's being manipulated. And really he's being manipulated on both sides, because the Jedi are just as scared of him as they are glad he's on their side. So this guy, he was destined to mess up. Like, I don't think any of us, the most pure of heart, wouldn't be able to navigate being the most powerful being in the universe at that point, and have all these different sides trying to pull at you. You wouldn't be able to always do the right thing anyway.
I agree.
It's that whole thing about power and its ability to corrupt. He had lots of power.
Will corrupt, absolutely.
Yeah. Is that really the theme of Star Wars ultimately? And that Luke was supposed to have not given into it or something? Is that the way you could look at it?
You could. I mean, that is an aspect of...
I just went too deep. I went to forget it. Just let me back right out of that.
Well, it's funny. Remember the prophecy always said he would bring balance to the Force, but we're still now, especially with this new movie, we're still waiting for that to come true. It's still going.
That's true. Yeah. When does it actually balance out? Because there's so many different ways to interpret that. Was Anakin the balance? Is Luke the balance? Because if you look at the original trilogy, Luke uses the light and dark side of the Force throughout it. I mean, he's manipulating situations to his advantage, not just for the greater good of the universe, but for him and his rebellion to win.
Right.
So, I mean, he's not always a good guy. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's not whatever the balance of the scale is for the Force. He's not always using light side tools.
I'm gonna
to get what he needs.
Also, I think he actually did create a balance, and the balance actually was literally like before A New Hope, where the balance is that there really was only a couple of dark and a couple of light people, and that's it. That was I mean, that's more of the balance was there. It wasn't just everybody was on the light side, and everybody from the light side, a lot of them got killed. So now you have true balance there. And yes, the dark side was a little bit more powerful at the time because they took over the Empire and all that kind of stuff. But the actual, from a Force perspective, the Force wielders, I guess you would say, it's more of a balance at that time. But it really depends on how you take what is a balance of the Force. So
I'm really hoping Anakin comes back in the next one or the next one to guide somebody, and it'll be interesting. And that may have already happened. We just don't know it yet. But anyway, you know what I mean? We don't. So
Yeah, there's something spoiler related that I want to bring
right,
up so
right.
badly.
Well, everybody at
yeah,
least knows,
yeah.
hopefully, that hasn't watched it yet, who the original cast that are in the new movie. Hopefully, they at least know who was in it, because
Right, yeah. I hope that's common
Yeah.
knowledge. But yeah, the other thing about like the balance of the Force prophecy is the way I look at it, or the way I'd like to think of it. And I don't think there's any wrong answer at this point, and that it's kind of cool that it's open ended. But I look at it as before the episode 3, you had to pick a side. You had to be on the light side of the Force or the dark side of the Force, and you had a specific set of powers that you would use with that, and you didn't use others because they didn't represent your side. And Anakin, him doing what he did to purge the Jedi and then do whatever happened in between episode 3 and episode 4, he balanced it out to where there's just the Force. You can use the Force, and your intention as you use it really is what's light or dark, but all Force powers would be available to you without these lines set. So if I want to use Force lightning, that doesn't make me necessarily a Sith. That makes me like a technician who walks in with the right tool to fix the problem. And sometimes it's Force lightning, and other times it's having a calming effect on the group so that a good decision gets decided. To me, that would be the right way to have balance, is that every Jedi that comes forward from that point on would be able to use all Force powers without any kind of concern about whether it's a light or dark side. Intention is what matters more than powers used. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong.
Curtis, you're probably wrong.
But I'm right, and you know it.
I believe every word you say, Curtis.
Let the knowledge flow through you. Use it.
you're going to have
And
to
you too
host
can be,
a spoiler edition soon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to do that.
It's killing me right now,
There's a
actually.
lot of
I
stuff
agree.
right now. We're just sitting here like, yeah.
Yeah. WR250 in the chat, let the butt hurt flow through you. Use it. Use it to limit your spoiler intake. So anything else Star Wars we want to bring up, or you want to move on to another
I think
topic?
we should probably, because I think we've done everything we can, minus spoiler.
But I agree with Loki. Next week is 2 weeks after the show's been on. We can go all out spoiler at that point.
I like that.
And that reminds me, next week is New Year's Eve, right? Because normally we do this on Thursdays. And
We gonna pull another Wednesday?
well, I was going to go ahead and do the episode on Thursday, but maybe a little bit later since it's closer to New Year's Eve. Like, I don't want to be doing a blab right at New Year's Eve. I want to go enjoy that in person rather than virtually. But maybe at 10 o'clock on Thursday. It's kind of funny that here we have graphics now that say our time that our shows are on, and this episode's not at that time, and next week's might not be on at that time. But the guys who do the podcast, not included, several of them may join us to do that. So we can make it
Another holiday special. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
But do it at 10 o'clock, and that we'll do it from 10 to maybe 11:30, and then everybody can break to go celebrate the holiday with other people. So, I don't know how that works for you, Bits.
I don't know. You know me. Nothing works for me.
That's true. You're like the curmudgeon of the podcast, right?
It's always something. I'm running on a generator right now so I can talk to you guys. So.
Well, there you go. That's a technical topic.
Wow, that's dedication.
It is.
Yeah, I have no power. I haven't had power for, what time is it? I haven't had power for a little over 4 hours now.
Or is it a gasoline or or I guess probably
No,
gasoline.
yeah, it's a gasoline. It's just a portable, but I've got it wired so it'll run the majority of my house. So.
Well, that was my next question. Is the rest of your family sitting there in the dark waiting for you to finish this podcast?
No, no, but all my neighbors are pissed off because I'm the only one that's got lights. I thought I'd really make them mad and turn on my Christmas lights, but
that's a whole nother level of dedication to have a generator for your Christmas lights. I like it.
Well, the problem is I need a separate generator for my Christmas lights.
Are they LED or traditional?
A mix. The majority of them are traditional, and they're the old school, what they call the C9 bulbs. The old big ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the vintage ones. So my Christmas lights right now, I just measured them. They draw 43.5 amps.
Oh, really?
Holy.
Yeah. So that's about what a dryer.
He's running an amusement park. That's what he's running.
That's just a little bit under what a dryer runs.
So what you're saying is you don't have a heater into your home during the winter. You just turn the lights on.
It cost me 82 cents an hour to run them. So.
Oh, really? I don't know if I'm that festive. I just bought some LED lights to put outside my house just so my kids didn't think that I had no Christmas spirit. But they're not even on right now. I mean,
well,
I turn them on every once in a while.
What I do is I just tell my wife and kid they can't. The water heater's turned off for the Christmas season, so it's cold showers only.
That sounds fair. For them, there's no happiness with the season without some suffering.
That's right. That's what makes it worth that. That's what makes you appreciate it.
That's a path to the dark side, though. All that suffering you're giving them. Your son might grow up to be Anakin now.
You will have that.
It happens sometimes. Not all apples or eggs
at
can
least
be good eggs.
At least he's not a redhead.
There you go.
Oh, you said Apple, so now. All right. So Apple is, and there is good evidence now in some phone leaks that they are truly abandoning the headphone jack.
Really?
News update from last week's, a few weeks ago story.
I don't like that.
They are actually. The thing is that there is actually a good reason for it, surprisingly enough.
Actually, give backstory to this first before you start digging into the current update. Kind of recap what we're.
All right. So the iPhone 7 has been reported to possibly be leaving the headphone jack behind. So the iPhone 7 will no longer have the standard headphone jack that every other iPhone prior to has always had. And so the latest article, this is actually it's been posted out on Forbes. Apple abandoning headphone jack.
And this is
the new leak.
And this is they're getting rid of the headphone jack. The reason it was talked about in our last episode was to make the device thinner, because that's the thickest part of the technology inside an iPhone is that 3.5 millimeter jack. So that's why they want to get rid of it, is for aesthetics.
Yeah, that was the original. That's the original ideas. Except for now, it's looking like in 2016 they're going to be rolling out a new high definition audio streaming service as part of their iTunes. And guess what? The new service will not work with the original headphones because of the quality difference. So they're actually specifically designing it for the Lightning headphone plugs. And so if you actually look out on their Apple store, they're pushing a whole bunch of new Lightning headphone designs from Beats Audio and several others. And so I guess that's what they're going for. They're actually going for this new high definition streaming stuff. So
the upside will be, high def audio over Lightning. The downside will be everybody will have to license Lightning proprietary stuff from Apple.
Right, just like
to make headphones, and
correct.
So what happens if I want to hook it up to my receiver in my room here? Do I have to buy an adapter?
No receiver for you.
No receiver for you. Actually,
no receiver for you.
You're probably.
I have to buy a receiver with a USB port.
Bluetooth.
You'll have to go with something a little bit better. It'll probably, because it's going to be a pure digital connection, there's probably not going to be any analog ports on. There's no analog connections on the Lightning connector, so it's probably going to actually have to be circuitry based. So it's actually going to have to do
digital to analog converter.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's okay, but again, like Loki said, it's another thing you gotta buy, and I don't like
exactly.
That. Yeah.
And you brought up Beats Audio. Well, my experience with Beats Audio, that's a ripoff.
Yeah, it's overall the sound quality for the price you pay is just not there in Beats Audio, and there's a lot of reviewers out there that will back that up 100%.
Let's double check with Loki here. What headset do you have there? That doesn't look like it's a Beats, but I want to make sure we're not trashing your headphones without giving you a chance to talk.
Oh, me?
Yeah, that doesn't look like a Beats you're using there.
It's a Turtle Beach. It's a Turtle Beach RF headset.
Those rate well all the time, so cool. Okay, good. Yeah. I just thought if those happen to be Beats you're wearing, but it didn't look like it, I was going to give you a chance to respond. Because how great would that be of us to? Okay, cool. Yeah, the data is just not there.
The rest of us pretty much using. Yeah, I've got an Audio-Technica headset here, and we've got Audio-Technica mics out here. We've got all kinds of stuff, but no Beats. You don't see any Beats when you're talking about that kind of stuff. So
yep, we got someone.
This is my first RF headset in years, and I love it. The range on this thing is insane.
That's nice. So there's no wires. You have a RF base station.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's not that I haven't used one of those for a long time either. I had one connected to a TV years ago, and I mean the technology probably was nowhere near what it is now. So you have a good range of audio with them. That's good.
Oh yeah, at least 60 feet in every direction.
That's nice. So we've got, is that Muhammad that joined us? Are you there?
He's trying to join.
Okay.
Trying to join.
Just jump in once you're fully connected to us. Going back to that connector, so it's another dongle basically you're going to have to buy to be able to use analog headphones. Or if you want to have the new digital headphones, you're going to have to buy whatever is out there. That is very frustrating. And is it worth it to get these phones that much thinner? Like my issue with, I have an iPhone 6 Plus, and this one and the last, I want to say 5S that I had, both felt like toys. They were so thin and light. And if it went any thinner than where the 6 or the 6S and the Pluses also are at, then it's going to feel so awkward in your hand to be able to hold that it just drives me crazy. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the 6S is pretty crappy because it's got that rounded. It's very slick. I mean, I think if you put a skin on it, I think you'd be in better shape. So you'd at least have some texture to the phone and you'd be able to grip it. But yeah, they always use this.
I was going to say the rounded part bugged me at first, but I'm fine with that now. I just don't want if I had my video up, you'd see this. But and when I look at this phone, I don't care for it to get any thinner. Like it's already out of proportion of width to thickness, I feel.
Same way with mine.
What do you think?
See, like I've got a Nexus, so.
Well, I'm an Android fanboy, but I run a PC shop, so this is the back end of my shop here.
Cool.
I can tell you this: the thinner they get, the harder they get to replace single parts on them.
Right, and I think that's what Apple's going for. they want to make these
absolutely
throw away. Yeah,
I would work on an Android any day versus an Apple.
Yeah, what's your preferred phone?
Right now, it's a Galaxy 6 S Edge.
Okay, cool. Do you find that the Edge is useful? That feature of the rounded or the curved screen,
or it looks cool.
Yeah, but
it's about it. I mean, really, to be honest.
Yeah. That's pretty much how the wearables are. Because I used to have the Gear Gear 2 Neo, and it was really cool. I thought it had a good build quality to it, and it was kind of fun as a wearable gadget to have. But at the end of the day, it didn't really add. It's like I needed it. There was never a point where I thought, man, I'm glad I have this watch or this smart watch with me.
Yeah, I was actually really, and I really am thinking about a smartwatch, but I don't wear a watch right now, and the fact that I don't wear a watch has always kept me from buying a smartwatch, and so or a wearable of any type, because I can't see, and it's one of those things where it's like, if I buy one, will I wear it because I'll find it useful, or will I leave it sitting on the counter like I did every other watch I've ever purchased in my entire life?
Says the only person I know who has a Google Glass.
Yes. That's true. But it was you can't turn down an invite to buy a limited
I agree.
access.
It's just funny because that's like the first wearable I knew about, and and you own that one, so I felt like I was just trying to catch up with you when I have a smartwatch.
Yeah, and it's still hanging right here next to my. Still in its bag, still hanging here, but I just so rarely get it out.
Yeah. So Loki, what kind of computer work do you do? Are you like a repairer or build custom builds?
All kinds. Yeah, we even do IT consulting.
Cool. Do you want to plug anything? Do you have a website or anything that people can go
No,
to?
I'm good. It's mostly local work, so
Okay.
you know.
How
That's cool.
do you mind if I just start asking you a bunch of random questions
No, go ahead.
about it? How has the market been with that? With the transition to Windows 8, and then now to Windows 10, are you seeing a lot of people want to make that switch to Windows 10?
Oh, a lot of people are very, I don't know, they hear bad things about it, so they don't want to. But I think once they're upgraded, they're pretty much fine with it. I can tell you the upgrade path isn't smooth. I mean, quite a few of the upgrades actually fail.
Yeah, that's frustrating. It's not really geared towards any kind of custom install of Windows either, right? If you're on Windows 8 or Windows 7, if your user directory is in a different folder, then all of a sudden the upgrade gets upset with you. It really feels
yeah, and it has problems with older machines. And by older, I don't even mean like 8 years old, right? I mean machines that they just simply haven't had the Windows 10 drivers out for. And a lot of times, like some people wonder why is it still waiting on my upgrade? And there's actually machines out there that are still qualified for the upgrade, but they haven't upgraded yet. It's because Microsoft won't push it until they know the machine's compatible, in theory at least. So
yeah, I've got that, but my laptop is a MacBook Pro. It's a 2012, I believe. It's the last MacBook Pro, or the latest one you can get, that doesn't allow you to upgrade to Windows 10 because Apple hasn't upgraded the drivers for it, and they don't intend to. Like mine is the legacy end, but Windows, like, and so I do boot camp on it, so I load into Windows just as much as I do the Mac side, and every time on Windows 7 it just goes crazy wanting to do the upgrade to Windows 10, and it does what you just said. It sits there trying to load. Like I've let it run through a couple times just to see if Apple's updated the drivers yet, on some hope that people have complained enough to get them to make mine compatible.
right.
And it does that. It just sits waiting because it doesn't have the drivers it needs, and it's annoying. I wish that there probably is a registry setting. I'm assuming I could check to turn that off to where it's not going to bug me about any upgrades going forward. But
Well, you can download the Microsoft Windows 10 download tool or whatever, let you make a bootable USB, and that will install, but God knows what won't work once you get it installed.
exactly. Yeah, I like Windows 10 enough, but not that much to suffer with a halfway working laptop. Have you seen a lot of... Sorry, go ahead, Gatun. Were you getting ready to say something?
No. Go right ahead. I've been running Windows 10 for a while, so I clean loaded, of course, because there is no such thing as upgrades in my world.
That is absolutely the way to go. You just carry over and magnify your problems if you have any, if you do an upgrade. It's been that way for Windows since... God.
Yeah.
I've got a Dell laptop back here that won't give me the auto upgrade because I installed a Enterprise Edition. I've got an Enterprise license on it because of what I do, and I've got Enterprise licensing available to me for work, and so we installed Enterprise licensing, and now I can't get the free upgrade because it's got Enterprise 8 on there. So I've got to backgrade it to a 7 Pro, which is what the license is, so that I can get the free upgrade. And I'm like, yeah, it's not worth that.
Yeah.
I'll just steal
The
it.
worst
I'll just
thing
grab
was
it, not steal.
the first RTM upgrade that came out, the release to manufacturer here, we're done with it. It did not allow you to enter your Windows 7 or 8 serial number if you were doing a fresh install. Now they finally allow you to do that, but you have to go use the download tool, make a fresh USB device. This came in the last month. And now I'm actually seeing some OEM pre-built computers that have the key and the BIOS, so where you just pop in the restore CD, you don't have to type any key. Well, now Windows 10 picks up on that, and as long as it qualifies, it just goes. They should have had that in from the get-go.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't.
Yeah. Well,
so the question is are they gonna change everything when it's not free anymore?
Well,
that is the question.
With Windows 10, don't they have a service on the back end of Microsoft where when you go to see if you're upgrade eligible, that it marks based on whatever hashed ID it uses, whether it's your motherboard or network card, whatever it's using to build that ID for your system. After it verifies that you're available for a free upgrade, then you could do an upgrade with Windows 10 or a fresh install at any point, and it doesn't doesn't bypass all the traditional checks, but it goes out to the service to see if you're available.
What you're actually talking about is once you actually have to complete the upgrade before that.
Is that when it tries to activate? That is checking that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the activation actually then registers your physical machine, and then you can fresh install Windows 10 after you've already upgraded, and then it will work fine. But and what he's saying is that you don't have to do that anymore. You can just fresh install from the get-go.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't have to actually do the upgrade to get the key.
As long as you have OEM or RTM and it's not Enterprise Edition, it'll go.
Okay. What are the different? Remind me for Windows 10. What are the different editions that are available now? Because I found it confusing with all the fracturing they did with 7 and 8. Is there just? I guess tell me which editions are out there of Windows.
Where should we start? Let's see. There's the original Home Edition. I don't believe there's a Home Pro anymore. There's not. It's our Home Premium. It's just Home. There's not any other version. There's Professional. There's Enterprise. There's an Enterprise LBTS or something license too, which I'll come back to that one. There's an Education Edition, which is technically Enterprise with that built on. Was there an Ultimate out there now too?
No,
they took that away, didn't they? It's just Home.
Everything Home Pro Enterprise Education. That's
Media Center, is it gone now? I mean, I know that they don't sell a Media Center anymore, but with Windows 8, you could get the add-on for Media Center. Is that gone in Windows 10 now completely?
I don't think I've seen a download for Media Center, but I've seen some posts about people wanting to add it, and I have not read up on it because I don't really care.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody cares.
I do. I'm the one. I loved Media Center Edition of Windows on Windows XP, and I've always told people that if you want to know where Xbox and the dashboard interface came from, we'll just look at Media Center, and that is basically ported over completely to the dashboard interface, which ironically came back around.
People have hacked Media Center over. People have hacked it over. You can get it to install, but it's not a core component.
Yeah, and I guess
Microsoft wants you to buy an Xbox, man.
I know.
That's what they want.
To buy an Xbox.
You're right. So are the Xboxes rolling out yet with a Windows 10 update, or is that pretty far away? Because they have the Windows partition on them. Have they updated it to Windows 10 or not?
Not a console guy, so I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah, I'm not a console gamer. I do know the screen share with Xbox works pretty well, so you can project your PC screen over to Xbox with very minimal lag. I was actually impressed.
That's cool.
With that.
Are you a PC gamer, Loki?
Yeah.
What are your favorite games?
Yeah.
Or what are you playing right now?
Oh. Gosh, Star Wars Battlefront. I'm still a Skyrim player. I have so many mods installed on Skyrim. It's crazy.
I'm going to have to play that.
I'm old school, though.
Explain. What's old school for you?
Oh, I'm still playing like Heroes of Might and Magic 5. I mean, gosh, I don't know. I'm old school.
Cool.
Lots of Minecraft. I do play lots of Minecraft.
Yeah, but Minecraft is fun. I do like that. I still play StarCraft, the original version. I do play StarCraft too. Yeah, I still love that. That's probably my favorite game. How about you, Bits? Do you have any opinion on Windows 10 or any of the other stuff we've talked about so far?
I haven't had any. Well, I haven't had a whole lot of experience with Windows 10. I don't have anything running on it. And as far as games, the only thing I play is Command and Conquer. That's about it. Old school.
Red Alert was a great game. We used to play LAN parties of that all the time.
Yep.
I remember those days.
I'm trying to get into Fallout 4, but I was not an original Fallout player, so.
Yeah, I played Fallout 3. I never played before that, and so Fallout 4 was kind of a natural thing because I didn't play New Vegas either. So, but Fallout 4 caught my interest for the first week, and it hasn't really gotten it back yet. So, um, I've actually been going back to my old standby of Kerbal Space Program quite a bit. So. But this weekend is going to be a Star Citizen weekend for me, so I'll be playing the latest release of Star Citizen starting as soon as they release it. So,
Are you going to do that?
Speaking of space, did you watch the SpaceX launch? And
I did actually.
that was awesome.
It never even came up in our talks here, Curtis.
11 new low orbit satellites, and some of the technology in them is pretty awesome. It's like GPS on steroids.
Yeah, wasn't it cool to see that launch? And it brings you back to the old NASA rocket launch days or shuttle days when there's just this awe of the power of humanity when you would see the shuttle go into space. And I'm sure it was even cooler.
The recovery was the best part. That is an insane feat to be able to land a rocket vertically, like they did. So,
yeah.
I
mean,
go ahead.
That was unbelievable to land a 14-story rocket or 15-story.
It was almost so unbelievable watching it. You swear they just played the video of a rocket launching backwards. it was so smooth, and yeah.
Did you see Blue Horizon as well? They landed their rocket the week before Thanksgiving, a couple of days before Thanksgiving. Blue Horizon, which is a company that is started by the owner of Amazon.com. And they were the first ones to stick a landing, but their rocket is little bitty tiny thing, not the SpaceX rocket that was freaking huge and did the same thing. So
yeah, I didn't watch that one.
Yeah, I have one of my brothers works with an aerospace company, so I get all firsthand news on a lot of stuff. So. He always keeps his feeds all up to date with space stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. So what do you think the next step will be? How are they going to wow us next?
I think their next step is actually their bigger rocket, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'm not all up to on SpaceX's.
Yeah, this is all unmanned, right?
This is all unmanned stuff. So the next one is actually going to be talking about, and it should only be about 2 years away or so, and they'll be actually launching manned missions. So,
well, Gatun, I know you were just recently reading the Foundation series, right? Or was it Foundation Z?
I was. I finished the last of the second trilogy.
So in that world of Isaac Asimov, with it, they would explore space with robots, which makes complete sense. And this idea, or the idea of these unmanned missions that we're doing to do payloads into space and then potentially Mars and to the International Space Station. I can't wait until we have the first bipedal robot that's walking on another planet, because I think that's far more likely to happen. It doesn't even have to be bipedal, I guess. I mean, it could be like one of the rovers, but
I don't think that's very likely to happen. So much stuff happens in space that bipedal robots and where we're at with them right now is unfeasible.
I would agree with Kurt.
So much,
it'll be years away, but well, you just have to look the new leg system that they're sending up for their the robo astronaut that's on the space station right now. They've got new, and the legs are pretty much like a second set of arms because it's more almost more monkey-like of a robot that can actually move around in the space station a little bit better.
That makes sense.
But the new legs for it are just fantastic. I mean, they're just cool, but they're not for walking upright.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, though.
Moving around in the corridors,
like the perception of something that looks like an android that is walking on another planet, where we could maybe see the silhouette of it walking from whatever the lander's cameras are. That'll have a different mindset for us than when we see the rover on Mars, which is still an amazing feat to have these things driving around on the surface of Mars, but it just doesn't hit you in the same way that an android, like, you think of the sci-fi version of what an android would be. C-3PO walking on Mars has a completely different thought to me than the rover does. I just can't wait for that. I mean, I definitely want manned space to continue because that's the key to all kinds of new horizons for us. But I just wonder how long it's going to be for.
When you really break it down, I think one of the next astronauts is going up actually has a twin brother, and his twin brother is going through the same exercise regimens and the same eating and everything like that. And his brother's going to stay on the ISS for a year, and he's going to be on Earth for a year, and they're going to actually see being that we have two genetically identical people, and then they're going to see the real differences between living in space and living on Earth. It's going to probably turn out to some really cool research stuff. So
yeah, that is pretty cool.
That's going to be fantastic. I would love to see the research that comes from that, because that we're really going to learn what it takes to live in space for long periods. Because right now it looks like humans aren't really designed for it. We're not set up to live in space for very long. So
I know it's old news now, but did you guys enjoy The Martian? I read the book, and then I listened to the audiobook, and then I watched the movie.
Yeah, I didn't read the book. I wish I had before, because typically I would read the book before seeing the movie. But I liked the movie. I thought it felt like it was as close to technically accurate as you could be in a movie. At least it seemed that way to me. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good story.
Yeah, it was very technically accurate. I have not seen it yet. I do have the audiobook in my short list of audiobooks that I'm getting through. And yeah, it's when my brother says it's technically accurate and they didn't screw much up, I'm going to believe him. So
yeah, all the technology that was in there was either accurate or something we know is physically possible. Now, that being said, there were a couple blunders that they did for basically Hollywood, right?
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and that's just part of to make it an interesting drama. You've got to have some steps you go past that. But yeah, it definitely, in a period of time right now that we're in where we don't have, like for the United States at least, we don't have manned missions to space that we're in control of. It's Russia's who we have to depend on to put someone in space right now. And that movie really, it was a good time to have that come out and to inspire people again to think, hey, I want to go explore space, because it felt like we were going to drift away from that, and we had been for a long time. And that movie, I hope, inspires a new generation of engineers to want to capture everything with it and go beyond Mars.
One of the coolest things about The Martian that I liked was the way that it came about. Andy Weir, the author, he actually wrote that as like a series on his blog, right?
Oh, really?
So it started out as a completely free chapter by chapter release onto the internet, and then people would give him feedback. He'd go back and fix things that absolutely needed fixed and whatnot. And then, people said, hey, we'd like to get this on our Kindle and stuff. Can you make it an ebook? So he made it an ebook, a manual download, right? And then people said, well, some of us don't know how to get this file onto our ebook. Can you put it in the App Store? Can you make it to where we can go buy it? He said, yeah, sure. He said, but I have to charge $1.99 because they make me. I can't put it up there. So he did that. It got so popular. The movie and the book deals came in the same week for him. Really? He completely ass backwards published this thing. It was pretty awesome.
That is cool. I do like to hear that, because it's the world is changing, and it's changing in favor of people who create really cool content. And I like anytime I see that really creative people are succeeding. The one thing that was funny about that is, if you've seen, Interstellar, I almost couldn't think of the name of it. If you watch Interstellar and then you turn around and watch the Martian, it's kind of weird with Matt Damon being in both movies and playing driven characters in both of them. Like I couldn't help but there's a few times waiting to see the moment when he would snap and be the character from Interstellar, and luckily, that never happens because that's not part of the story. But it was a little weird having two movies that are space oriented. Obviously, Interstellar has a lot more fantasy to it than it does science. But having him as an astronaut in 2 movies where he's marooned on a planet was really weird. I would rather them have not picked him for Interstellar and have him done this much better movie, which was The Martian.
Definitely read the book, though, or listen to the audiobook before you go watch it. And that's not because I'm saying it's so much better. It's that they had to leave so much out. They had to condense it so much. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
I'll take you up on that since I haven't watched the movie yet, and I have the audiobook, so...
It's one of those audiobooks, though. Once you start, the audiobook was done really well, right? So it's one guy reading the whole thing, but he does the additional character voices really well. He has to do like 2 or 3 different distinctive Indian accents, which is kind of hard. And he brings some character to the audiobook. He's not just a boring reader.
Yeah, that's the key to a good audiobook right there. If you get someone who is good at the different inflections and speech patterns and does all the voices themselves, I like that much better than an ensemble cast trying to tell a story. I just finished reading the book from Stephen King, 11/23, was it 63 or 22/63, the day JFK was assassinated. Have you guys seen that or know anything about that book? Or there's a Hulu series getting ready to come out related to it. It's
No, I didn't know anything about it.
It's a good book.
That's a good book.
It is a really good book. This is the second podcast I've talked about it, I guess, here in the last 2 weeks. So I guess I really enjoyed it. But the idea, the story of it is there's this, like, I don't know, time travel portal, and you go back every time you walk through it. You go back to a specific point in the past, and it's in 1958 on this certain day, and you can go through it, walk around in the town, do anything you want to in the past. But then when you walk back through to the other side of the portal back to current time, you come back to the world that's been affected by what you did in the past. But if you go back into the portal again, it resets. You go back to that same time in 1958, but if you were to jump back through the portal back to your home time, then everything you did that last trip through is reset. I thought that was a really cool time travel technique, that if you go and say you go back in time, like since it's focused around JFK, it's pretty obvious to tell that there's going to be an attempt to try to stop the JFK assassination. Let's say you started to do that and you mess up. Well, you just go back to the portal, jump through it, and it's 2 minutes, only 2 minutes of time pass each time you do it. So you could go back through the portal and spend the next 10 years of your life there, but when you come back through on the other side, only 2 minutes has passed in present time. So say you screw up something massively, go through the portal, come back to current time, jump in the portal again, and you just reset whatever mistake you made. Everything goes back to normal again. I thought it was a kind of a cool concept, and it was a good book. It was one that as soon as I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. Like I had to finish it in a very short amount of time. And the TV show they're basing off of it looks like it's going to be pretty good. James Franco is the main character in it, so he's a good actor. I hope he does a good job with it. Since we were talking about rockets and space, let's bring it down to the atmosphere and talk about drone registration. We kind of hinted at that in the very beginning. What's going on, Gatun? What do we need to do if we own a drone coming up soon?
I have no idea.
I know a little bit about it.
How about Bits?
Yeah, was this your story, Bits?
It was Bits' story.
Is he gone?
Listen to him.
Hey, there you are. Okay.
No, he's always trying to do something to keep me out.
We'll set up the story, then we'll talk about it.
Well, I just got brief information about it. Just that the FAA, what was it? I guess it was 2 Mondays ago now, because this was 2 Mondays ago. Brought up the new rule that anything more than basically half a pound and less than 55 pounds has to be registered with the FAA. The new rules require owners to pay $5 for registration fee, but I thought this is what I'm reading here, but I thought it was more than that. But anyway, people 13 or older by February 19th, 2016. So here in just a little over a month, have got to have it registered, or they face a $27,000 fine.
Okay, so Loki, some of the things you're saying there is the first 30 days you don't have to pay the fee.
Yeah, the fee is waived for the first 30 days, and the registration, from what I can understand, is not per drone. So you need one. You get one unique identifier for yourself that you can put on your different vehicles. And I don't think it's drone only. We're not talking just drone here. We're talking about unmanned aircraft, like he said, up to, I think it's between a half a pound and 55 pounds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, you have
It is per person. Yeah, not per unit.
So
which to me is like, I kind of like that idea, because you have a lot of people that are, a little worried about the government and whatnot. They say, oh, they're just trying to, control all of my stuff. And I'm like, well, they could have told you had to register each individual device. That would have been more,
right.
Yeah,
that would have been more expensive if you're into the hobby and intrusive. But yeah, I have no problem with the idea that these things are out in the airspace. There's all kinds of little things that have happened already with drones that have created lawsuits or people going to jail for different scenarios. Some of them have become urban legends at this point. That I don't have a problem with saying that a person has to have some kind of registration to fly a drone of certain parameters. It makes sense.
There was an interesting thing in Japan done with a drone a couple days ago. I think it may have been 4 or 5 days ago now. An activist actually flew a drone over the ministry building with it had soil from Fukushima that was radioactive, hovering it over the building as a protest.
Oh, really? So there's all kinds of creative ways you could use drones. They're really a technology that, like we always talk about the internet helping to level the playing field, and social media like Twitter doing that also. But drones, they give you a physical way to if you're creative enough to do something like that to get your message out there. There was
I don't know how registering whether you register the unit or the person registering, I don't know how it's going to keep people from being stupid. I mean,
you can't.
I don't know how they're going to keep that from happening.
You can't legislate stupid.
Well, I think you actually have to mark the craft, right? I think there has to be an identifier on it. It's going to be the same one for all the craft that the person owns, but I guess at least. But let's face it, people are going to do illegal activities with them. They're not going to register them. Period.
Right.
I mean.
Well, that's true. But I mean, unless one of them crashes and they can't retrieve it, nobody's ever going to know who was doing what.
Well, okay, so Bits, you're a licensed.
It's just like me having a ham radio license. It's illegal for me to interfere with somebody, but if I'm smart enough to interfere with them and not make it known who I am, then they're never going to find me.
Right. So the thing with the drones are that if someone's just doing dumb stuff and they're registered, then it helps create a path to find who that person was and fix that problem. But if someone's going to do something illegal, they aren't going to care about any of the rules. So yeah, you're going to find these unmarked drones. But to me, the good part about it, like I'm all for keeping government and anyone out of, let me do what I'm going to do and you do what you're going to do. But there are certain times in society where that just doesn't work. It's not possible because there's too many people trying to interact in the same space. So you got to have some order to the system. And if this creates order to go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't have a problem with them registering drones, but it's just like a gun law. It's only going to keep the honest people honest.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that it's a little bit different in terms of if your drone were to cause problem in airspace that you go to places you shouldn't or do things that you shouldn't, not because there's some secret there, but because you could actually cause problems. It would be like getting a license for a gun and walking into a mall and just waving it around and shooting, not at people, but just shooting it because you don't care. And I think that same thing with a drone. You don't want to take it out into an area that is active airspace and start flying drones around. You could cause all kinds of chaos. Maybe you're just trying to make a scene. You're not trying to hurt people, but you still could hurt people because of that. So yeah, that's where I think the the drone registration makes sense because, like as a ham radio operator, you should go through a formal process to be given, what I'll call the power to fly a drone. It's not like you're being restricted from being able to do it. It's just, hey, follow these certain rules, and then you can do what you want to do. But you have to show some kind of proficiency to be able to handle it, and that would be going through a registration process. That means you're being respectful of what you need to do to fly this drone properly. I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think what they'll do eventually is you'll have to have a registration, and then you're going to have to file a flight plan, just like a regular pilot has to do. So if you plan on flying your drone within certain areas or within certain heights or whatever, you'll have to file a flight plan with the FAA so they know where your drone is at what time, or what day or whatever, because that's the only way they're going to be able to keep tabs on what's going on. Even if they require a license or a registration to buy one, that's still not going to stop people from doing whatever they want with it. I mean, it's just how it is. So I think that eventually you'll have to file a flight plan, and that's just the only way they'll be able to keep tabs on it.
So reading some of the articles here while the discussion was going on, since I didn't read a lot of them, they are talking about NASA's looking into one that will provide drone operators airspace design, corridors, dynamic geofencing, and that kind of thing. That's going to be more for the commercial pilots that are out, the commercial drone operators that are out there. But any unmanned aircraft within 5 miles of an airport will be restricted unless you have permission from air traffic control beforehand, before making your flight. So you're kind of right, where they've already kind of instituted that, where you got to get permission from air traffic control before you can fly within 5 miles of an airport, which I live within 5 miles of an airport, and I live nowhere near a big airport because there's little airports all over the place. So the restrictions are going to are already fairly massive. So.
Yeah, but and again, I don't know that, like if there would have to be some kind of serious incident, I think, for them to get to the point to where you have to have like clear flight plan rules. I hope we don't ever get to that point, because that's just unneeded bureaucracy really to add to it. But again, I think there'd have to be some major issue occur. But
yeah, I think the word drone just people. We've had unmanned aircraft, to scale aircraft that can exceed the speed capabilities of drones for years now. Hobbyists have been doing their thing for years. I don't know, it's just a renewed interest in it, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's a fear of something that hasn't happened yet that drives most of it, and it probably won't happen. That's the thing, is that let's say some terrorist incident occurs related to a drone, that will be just a different use of a piece of technology to do something, not that the drone itself is a problem that needs to have all this extra stuff added to it. It doesn't mean the next time someone does something, they're going to use a drone for it. I think Amazon scared people too with the whole idea of drones delivering packages to them. Like, the marketing around that was just so flawed in how they did it, and then the reaction was even worse. So that set back legitimate drone usage so far because of just this really bad PR thing where Bezos thought he was saying something cool and being like Elon Musk saying, here's the future. And if Elon Musk would have said that, it would have been reacted to so differently than how the Amazon announcement of it was. That's a big reason why we have a lot of these current perception issues with drones. And it doesn't.
Well, it goes back to my analogy. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, the only other thing I was going to say is that we are also in a time period when the first war has been led by drones, or in terms of a lot of the strikes that our government's doing are drone related. That institutes an extra fear in there that maybe isn't 100% justified from my point of view. But I mean, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that it just goes back to my analogy that, I mean, with the gun thing, I can go buy a missile launcher, and if you make me register my missile launcher, that doesn't mean that I'm going to do what you want me to do with it. I can do whatever I want with it. I may get caught easier, but that's not going to stop me from, from using it, illegally. So I just don't know that registering a drone is going to help anybody help the situation of people causing trouble.
Here's the analogy I would make.
I think the only thing it'll help is you'll have mass distribution of guidelines to people that just got new drones. I mean, it's estimated there's going to be 700,000 drones bought over the holiday season. That's a lot. So I guess you could look at it as like it's one way of publicly telling a whole bunch of people, here's a little pamphlet, at least read this, whatever. You know?
Well, it has to be similar.
All the drones that I've seen that are worth a damn are $1,000 or more. So I don't I don't understand where all these people are getting this money, but whatever.
Well, they're not buying those. They're buying the low end ones.
No, this is including the low end ones. I'm not saying they're all high end.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, two analogies that I'll bring up. One is this can't be that much different than amateur radio in the early days. When amateur radio, and I don't know the history of it, so if I'm wrong, you can correct me. But in the early days of it, I'm sure anyone who wanted to put the effort into building a setup could get on the air and start communicating. And then you start having a lot of traffic issues over the airways, and you had to start setting up rules and organizations, and bring us to today, where we are, where now you have to get an amateur radio license, and you follow a set of rules, just like Loki was saying, where it's just setting up the guidelines to where you're a good citizen while you're doing it. And it's not this wild open frequencies that anyone can jump on and talk about whatever they want to, whenever they want to. Is that fair to say, Bits? I know you're way more knowledgeable about that.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah, but if you don't follow the rules, the FCC doesn't do anything.
But they could. I mean, it's a fear of it rather than... I suppose. I mean, they don't. I mean, they don't have the resources to do it. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. But, again, it's only going to keep the honest person honest, period. It's like speeding. I mean, people speed.
If you want to be a douchebag, there's plenty of douchebags on the radio. So, and they get away with it every day. It's just their person. It's just their personal. It's their reputation that they have to deal with.
Yeah. And it's a way of the government. It's saying, hey, look, we made this new process. You were supposed to register. You didn't. Now you've done something illegal with your drone. You were supposed to have registered it. Now, if we actually want to penalize you, and the maximum penalties on this is pretty high. The fine is pretty high. So is the jail time. That's not to say everybody's going to get that. But I think it allows the government to say, look, everybody was forewarned. We did, we tried to warn everybody. If you do something wrong, the penalty is pretty steep. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that they would push this drone thing more than they would, the amateur radio stuff, because you're dealing with a lot more serious things as far as airplanes and passengers and all that kind of stuff. So I think that this is a lot more serious than a lot of things.
Well, look at in the first 10 years of rules with the FCC and communication, because it's FCC who monitors the amateur radio frequencies. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So in the first 10 years of their being active in requiring licenses to be on the airwaves, they were probably more strict in the way they enforced it. I mean, we're looking at many years removed from those regulations being created. So yeah, they're a lot more lax now than they used to be. You fast forward 50 years from this registration and whatever else plays out over that time, I'm sure they're going to be a lot more lax on it, because people will understand what they can and can't do comfortably. And there'll always be those people who know the rules and follow the rules, except for one or two times when they want to do something really funny or just do a prank. And then they're going to break the rules, and they're not going to get caught. And if they did, they're just going to be told, hey, follow the rules. And that's all they're going to get. The other analogy I wanted to make was with a laptop and wireless. Before wireless encryption and routers came with default better encryption methods and passwords, going back in the early days of it, every router you bought, whether it was a Linksys, a D-Link, Netgear, they all had default passwords on them. And almost no one in a business setting, and I'm talking like small businesses, once you get to a certain level, they probably were paying someone to do it for them. But the average little business that wanted to set Wi-Fi up, they would put a wireless router in their network or a wireless access point, and you would do war driving. You could drive around and find all these open access points, and that there weren't specific rules against that in the very beginning. There were some decency rules behind it, and if you were to start breaking laws by messing with data on their network, then you've entered a whole new level. But now there's a lot more restrictions on that. But in the early days, there weren't. I mean, you could go around with a wireless laptop and drive through any major city, or you can drive through any area that has broadband, and you're going to find a bunch of access points that were completely open to you. But now today, after some guidelines and rules were set up, and manufacturers followed them, it's a lot harder to do that. You can still get into people's access points, but you don't hear people talking about that nearly the same level as what they used to. And I think that's how this will be too. You'll have less and less people breaking the rules of what you should and shouldn't do with the drone as time goes on.
I think you're right. I think that's pretty much how all rules are. You have to have some period of heavy enforcement, otherwise people don't believe you're serious. So,
yeah. Well, and to bring this back and kind of close up, it's just like the Empire was in the original trilogy. How many Jedi did you see during the original trilogy? They had all that time between the prequels and A New Hope to take care of the Jedi problem, to where it wasn't really all that much of a problem until one Jedi shows up. Okay, that fell flat. Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
I was hoping that that was my new hope. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks Loki for jumping in here. It was a great conversation with you. I really appreciate it. Had some great insight there.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we call it a night? Cartoon?
No, I think everybody have a wonderful Christmas. Thank you all for listening. Again, you can reach us at our website at whysotechnical.com. We are on Twitter at the letter Y, sotechnical.com. And we have email at show@whysotechnical.com as well. You can find us there. We also have a Google Plus page, Why So Technical. You can look us up on the Google Plus as well. So.
And this will be on YouTube too, right? Did you say that?
We will get this. These are also these recordings are also placed up on YouTube as well. So.
Okay, it's loading. Anything you want to say?
Well said. No, I don't have anything else. Everybody have a wonderful Christmas or holiday, whatever you celebrate, and New Year's. And we will see you next Thursday. So.
Yeah, next Thursday at 10 o'clock rather than 8 o'clock. And I will say happy everything to everyone. Hope that everything you want to happen happens, and nothing that you don't does. And may the force be with everyone. Good night.
Good night, everybody.